Hi everyone, I'm Iman. In this video, we will continue to build our booking apps UI and UX. And today we will build register and sign in page using React and Tailwindcss. For handling validation and submitting the form, we will use React hook form. Let me give you a demo of what we are going to build. For register page, we have a form with first name, last name, email, password and confirm password fields with a link to sign in page and a button to create an account. If we submit the form without filling it, it will have required errors. Let's fill them. For email, if we enter incorrect email format, it will tell us to pass correct email format. Password must be at least 6 characters and can't be more than 9 characters. For confirm password, if we enter different password, your passwords do not match. Let's open console log to see if our form gets logged. Our form data is here. If we go to sign in page, in here we have email and password field with a link to register page and a button to sign in. If we submit without filling it, we will have required errors. If we enter incorrect email and submit it, it will tell us to correct it. Password must be at least 6 characters and can't be more than 9 characters. Let's submit it by clicking on the sign in button and it will console to log. Both forms will be completely responsive. If you don't know anything about React hook form, I will recommend a channel named Code Evolution. Watch at least first section of the tutorial on React hook form and I will try to explain everything along the way. So before we start creating form, we have some changes to make. Inside components folder, let's go to navbar.jsx. Instead of website name, let's replace it with e.booking. Let's save it. Okay, so for the links, we only need 2 links, my hotels and my bookings. So in here, let's remove contact and register link, replace home with my bookings. We also need to change to attribute of link element to my bookings. And instead of about, we will say my hotels. And we also need to change to attribute. And for sign out, let's change it to sign in and to attribute to sign in. Let's save it. Okay. And in here we use animations. It's not saving. Let's refresh it. We also need to change links for site name also. So in here, my bookings, instead of about, let's say my hotels. And for these 2 links, let's remove them. And this button to sign in. Also this link. Now we also need to change animations for them also. For that, let's go inside navbar.css. And in here, let's remove contact and register. Change this to sign in. And let's change its name to bookings and hotels. And for properties, for this line, let's say 1.3. seconds. Now we need to use these classes for our links. So in here, instead of home, let's see the name bookings. And here hotels. Make sure you spell them right. Okay, so let's save it, refresh it and see. We forgot to change sign in class name. So let's say here sign in. And in here, let's say 1.4 seconds. And for sign in, let's say 2 seconds. So now let's save it. Okay, now our animations are properly working, but as you can see there's too much spacing in here now and our line is a bit bigger than our button. So let's change it also. Back in our navbar.jsx, let's change this HR width to 28, which is basically our line. Let's save it, and our padding also decreased automatically. So now let's try clicking it. Now let me show you one more thing. So in here let's change it back to slash and save it. Now when we click it, our nav bar is not closing. So in here what we need is when we click on this my bookings link, we need to close this side nav. So for that we have created here toggle menu and we set it to true. When we click on our hamburger icon, now we need to set it false when we click on this link. So for that, after this class name we will say on click. So when we click on this and set toggle menu to false. Let's also do it in here after class name on click. Set toggle menu to false. Like this. Let's save it and see. So now when we click on it, our side nav closes. Let's do it again like this. Now let's change this back to my bookings. Okay, and one more thing is for this search button, our cursor will only turn into pointer when we hover on this text and not when we hover on this white background. So let's go inside searchbar.jsx and on this parent div which contains our icon and this button, we will say cursor pointer to this whole div. So now let's see. Now when we hover on this white background, our cursor turn into pointer. Let's see. Okay, so now let's start creating our register form. To create a register page instead of a small component, we need a separate page. So inside source folder, let's create a new folder called pages and inside a file called register.jsx. Let's create a register component. And export it. And guess where should we import it? We import it inside app.jsx. In here we have a router, inside we have routes, and inside we are going to have multiple routes. Let's create one for our register page. After this route, /register and element will be register. Let's save it and take a look in the browser. In here let's go to /register, which is our path. Our register page text is visible. Now on register page also we need header, hero and search bar and we created them before, so instead of creating them again and again, we can use props. Let's use it inside layout.jsx. Let's destructure children, and after this search bar div, we will have another div, and inside we will display children. Let's give some class name to it, container, which will give padding, mxauto, which will push our elements to the center of the page, py10, and flex to 1 so that it will take the full space available to it. Now let's go inside app.jsx and wrap register component inside layout. Like this. Let me explain it. So when we go to /register URL, we will be directed to register page, and register is nested inside layout. If we go to layout, the navbar, hero and search bar will be visible, and after that whichever component we nested inside layout component will be its children, and we display children after all these. Now if we go to the browser, register page text is visible with all the other components. Now let's create our form. For that, replace this div with a form tag. Now, why must we put forms inside form tag? Answer is the form tag groups all the form elements together. It enables data submission to the server when a user clicks the submit button. Browsers apply default validation rules to form inputs within a form tag, and JavaScript can easily detect and handle form submission events when elements are inside a form tag. This makes it easier to manipulate the data or validate inputs before sending them off. Now let's first create our form structure. After that we will style it. So inside form tag we will have a heading h2 and create an account. After this h2, let's first format it and put our form tag inside return statement like this. After the h2, we will have a div that will contain our first name and last name fields. Let's have a label for our input. Our label is called first name. After this text, we will have a input element. Type will be text. The reason we put input inside label is because it is a HTML standard. It will tell the browser that this label is connected to this input. We will have another label for our last name. And input field type will be text, and after this div we will have a label for email. Email input type will be email. And the reason we put first name and last name field in a div is because we need them to be in a same line, and for email it's going to take full length. And after this email we will have label for password and confirm password field. Type will be password for input. For confirm password, and its type also will be password. Like this. Let's save it. Okay, now all of our inputs are here. Of course we need to style them, and for first name and last name, since we put type text in our input, when we write something, its format will be text. And for password and confirm password fields, whatever we write, its type will be password. Since we don't need to show our password, that's why we said type password, so that instead of text, its format will be dotted. Now that our inputs are here, we need a link and a button. For that, we will have a parent span, and inside another span in which we will have a text already have an account, and after that we have a link which we import from React Router DOM. You can simply say in the terminal inside booking folder npm install React Router DOM. After that you can use it easily, and text will be sign in. Now we also need a two attribute so that when we click on the sign in text, we will be directed to sign in page. And we have this link inside this span tag. Let's move it here like this. Now after this children span, we will have a div, and inside a button called create account, and its type will be submit. By saying type submit, it's going to submit the form that it's inside of. Now let's save it and see. Okay, now that our link and button are here, let's style this form, and for that we are going to use Tailwindcss. Let's give here class name flex, so it will all come in row, but we don't need them on the same row. So let's give here flex call like this. It will all be in vertical, gap 5, so every element has a gap of 5, and whatever styles we give to this form, it will apply to all the elements that are inside of it. On smaller screens padding is alright. Let's see on larger screens. Now on larger screens we don't need our form to expand this much. We can give some padding on x-axis, meaning on left and right. So after this gap 5, let's say on larger screens and above, padding x on left and right will be 32. If we hover it, padding on left and right will be 128 pixels on both sides. Now let's save it and see. Okay, it's looking much better. Let's see on extra large screens. Maybe we can give here more padding on extra large screens. So in here we will say on extra large screens and above, padding x will be 56, and the classes that we give here, this LG, XL, SM, MD, there are many more on it. These are classes that we can use to make our elements responsive. So let's save it and see. Okay, now it's much better. Okay, now for our H2, let's come in here, class name text3xl, and let's see on larger screens how it looks. Maybe we can make it a little bigger. So in here, on larger screens and above, our text will be 4XL, and on medium screens, smaller screens and extra smaller screens, our text will be 3XL. Let's save it. Okay, now it's 4XL, but on medium screens it will be 3XL, as you can see. Let's also change its color to something blue. For that, we will say text, our color and how much dark we want it to be. We have many properties in here. Let's give it 600 and see. Okay, font bold so that our text is bold, and to make it center in horizontal way, we can give it a class text center like this. Now for our div in which we have first name and last name, flex col, so it will be in columns like this, and on smaller screens we will have it in columns because we don't have much space in here, but on medium screens and above we will make it in row. So for that, on MD screens and above, flex direction will be row like this. Now its direction is row, and on smaller screens its direction is column. And these classes that we use for responsiveness, these are applied to that particular screen and screens bigger than it. Okay, let's have gap, and gap will be applied on vertical and horizontal order in both. Now let's style first name label, class name, text gray 700, font bold, text base and flex 1. For our input, let's give it border, okay, and border dash 1. We can give 0, 2, 4 and 8. Let's give 1 like this, and its color will be border gray 400. And when we click on it, let's change this outline to something blue. For that we will say outline blue 600. Let's click on it. As you can see, let's make it rounded, width full, so that it will take full width like this. Padding 2 for spacing, and font normal. Whatever we type into it, its font will be normal. Okay. Now let's give styles to other fields also, which are same as this first name field. Text gray 700, font bold, text base flex 1, input border 1, border color gray 400, outline blue 600, rounded, width full, padding 2 and font normal. Since we are using same styles for other fields, let's copy them and paste them for all the other inputs. Like this. Let's also copy class names for input field. Like this. Let's save. Our styles for fields are completed. Now let's style this link and button. For parent span, let's give here class name, flex, items center, like this, justify between so that our button and link will space out, gap 3. For children span, text LG so that its text will be a bit bigger. Now let's style our link. underline, and text color will be blue 700 like this. Now let's style this button div, and for this div we use it as a border for our button. Last name border blue 400. For this button BG blue 600 like this. Text color will be white. Padding 2, so it will space out a bit like this. Font semi bold. Text size XL, and when we hover on it, its opacity will be 95. Let's see, like this. You must be thinking, instead of this div we can just give this border to this button, but we need here some padding. Let me show it to you. Let's say padding 1. We need it to be something like this, and if we put border in it we can't give it padding because it will be applied to this background and not this border. So that's why I give here div, so that we can use it as a border so that it will match our search button. Let's give some more spacing in here between our text and sign in link. So if we put spaces in here like this, it will not be applied. Instead we can use here curly braces, and inside these commas we have a space. Let's save it like this. Now as a developer we must make sure that our application or website looks good on all the screens, and we can check it on our browser. If you right click and click on inspect and click on this icon, from here you can select any device in which you can see how our website looks. Let's see. Okay, it's looking nice. Let's see. But in here, as you can see, our this link and button are not looking nice. If we select BlackBerry, now as you can see our link and button text is wrapping. We can fix it. Let's see. So in here we give here flex. Let's give here flex call so that they both have different lines, and let's reverse it so that our button will come on top of this link. After call we can say reverse like this. Now let's see. If we click on responsive, but as you can see, instead of applying styles to only smaller screens, it's applied to all the screens, and we have enough spacing in here. So what we can do is, let's go back to browser, and in here on smaller screens and above we can say flex row. Let's save it. So on smaller screens it will be flex call, but on medium screens and above it will be flex row. Maybe we can have some more spacing in here between our button and confirm password field. So inside this div we can say margin top 1, but on smaller screens and above, since we have them in a row, we don't really need margin top. So we can say on SM, meaning on empty 0. Okay. To create a fully functional form, it needs API calls to fetch data from user, validate that data, show error and success messages accordingly, and save that data to database. But since we are only creating front end, we can add some restrictions and validation. So instead of handling all of that by ourselves, we can use React Hook form, which makes it easier for us to handle forms. Let's install it. Open up the terminal, create a new terminal, and in here go inside booking folder, and in here we say npm installed React Hook form and press enter. Okay, it's installed. To help manage form state, by form state I mean that when a user enters something inside form, make changes or submit it, and based on what was entered, a success or error message will be shown. React Hook form provide a method called register that we can destructure from useFormHook. UseFormHook is a primary feature of React Hook form. So after register, before return statement, let's say const destructure register from useFormHook and import useForm from React Hook form. This method allows us to register a form control with React Hook form. The method in turn returns form methods that we need to hook into form control. Let's destructure them. Const name ref onChange and onBlur. And inside we pass the name of the field, which is username. Now on the username input we can add props name equal name, ref is ref, onChange equal onChange, and onBlur will be onBlur. Doing this automatically enables React Hook form to start tracking the state of this form control. However, this does seem like a lot of code to track just one field. To simplify registering a field with React Hook form, we can directly spread the register method on the form control. Let's remove call to register and all the attributes except type and class name. We add curly braces, spread operator called register function and pass the name of our field, which is first name. The argument is nothing but the name attribute value that was previously present, and after this string we add curly braces, required, and our message. First name field is required, like this. Now it will try to register the form, and if any error occurred, it will display this error message. And make sure it's camel case, like this. Now let's register our other fields. After this class name, register, pass in string called last name and required error. Required last name field is required. Same for our email. Register email required. We forgot to add the object. Email field is required. Same for password. And for password we need some more validation. We will say min length value 6 and message password must be at least 6 characters. Now what this will do is, for our password field, our minimum length will be 6, and if the value is lesser than 6, our message password must be at least 6 characters will be visible. And let's do the same for max length. max length value. For maximum, let's say 9 characters, and message password can't be more than 9 characters. And that's all for password. For confirm password, after class name, register and confirm password. But for confirm password field, we need to add some custom validation. For that, we need to call the validate function. The validate function is going to provide us the value of this input. So basically whatever the user has typed into this field, arrow function. And firstly, we need to check if the user has entered confirm password. For that, we will say if is not value, we will return message confirm password field is required. And secondly, we need to check if our confirm password field matches the password field. Now we can't get the password value in here. To get that, we can use watch property that React Hook form gives us, which lets us get the value of a different input field. Let's destructure it from use form. After register, we can say watch. We are going to check if the password field value is not equal to the value of confirm password, and then we return a string message. So after if statement, watch, and using watch method we can access password value. So let's say password, and we will check if password is not equal to value, and if it's not equal to value, we will return a message, your passwords do not match. So what we do here is use the validate function, which automatically gives us the value of the current field. So whatever user has typed into confirm password field, and we will check if the user has passed a value in it or not. And if it doesn't have any value, then we will return message confirm password field is required. Else if it has any value, we first call the watch function and access the password value and check if it's not equal to the confirm password value. And if they are not equal, we will return an error, your passwords do not match. If you do not return anything, then the validate function is going to assume that everything is okay. That's why we don't need anything else in here. But if we return a string, then it's going to assume that the string we return is an error and add it to the errors object. Now based on the state of the fields, we also need to show errors to the user. So for that, from use form we can destructure form state, and from form state we can destructure errors. Like this, and now we need to show errors for their individual fields. So inside label after the input we will say in curly braces errors dot first name and we will show here span, and inside errors dot first name dot message. So if there is any errors for the first name field, only then we will display this span in which we have error for first name field. So let's do the same for other fields also. After this input, errors dot last name and span inside curly braces errors dot last name dot message, like this. Let's also style them a little. Text red 500. Same for this. Since it's the same for other fields, let's copy paste. For email, password, and confirm password. Okay, so now that we also show here error messages, now how we verify it? By default, only when we submit the form we can see validation. So let's get the handle submit function from use form hook. After this form state, we can say handle submit. The handle submit function will submit the form, check for any error and create an error object for us. Now let's create a function that calls this handle submit function. So before the return statement, we will say const on submit and handle submit. I will explain it in a bit. Error function and console log data, like this. And on form tag, we will say on submit equal on submit. The on submit function that we created gets called when we click the button and the form gets submitted. Then it's going to pass the form data to handle submit function, which we get from use form hook. The handle submit function will do validation behind the scene to make sure everything is okay, and if it is okay, then our function gets called that we pass to handle submit function, and we get the data and log it to the console. Now let's check if everything is working. Let's submit the form without filling it. We have our errors, so let's fill them. Let's say Alexa, gray, email. Let's pass incorrect email and submit. So this is the default validation. Let's pass correct email. For the password, if we enter 3 characters, password must be at least 6 characters. We spell it wrong. Let's correct it. In here, characters like this. Okay, and if we enter 6 characters, our error is gone. Let's try to add some more. Password can't be more than 9 characters. It will have your passwords do not match error. Let's match it and create account. Let's open the console and see if our form gets logged. Let's submit our form and see if the data will console. And here, as you can see, we have confirmed password, email, first name, last name and password. So our form is working perfectly fine and it's also completely responsive. Now let's create our sign-in page, and it will be similar to our register page. If you want to make it yourself, try it. It will be a good practice. Otherwise, let's start creating our sign-in form. For that, inside pages folder, let's create a new file called signin.jsx. Create a sign-in component. and export it. Default sign in like this and import it inside app. After this register route, let's create another route for our sign in page. Path will be /signin and element, and inside layout, since we need navbar, hero and search bar, and inside our sign in component. Let's import it. Okay, so now our sign in text is here with all the other components. Now instead of this div, we will have a form. Inside this form, let's first have a h2 sign in. After this h2, we have a label, and for sign in page we only need two fields, email and password. Email and input field, type will be email, and because we give here email, so we give here type email so that the form will know that this input has a type email, so that it will apply default email validation to it. And after this email label, we will have one more label for password and an input field. Type will be password like this. And now after this label, let's have a parents pen, and inside a children's pen and text not registered space, and after this text we will have a link which we import from React Router DOM, and when we click on it we will be directed to register page. After this children's pen, we will have a div, and inside a button called sign in like this, and its type will be submit. So when we click on this button, our form gets submitted. Now let's style it. Class name flex, flex call, gap 5 on larger above larger screens, px32 on XL, px72 for our h2, text 3XL on larger screens and above, text 4XL, text color will be blue 600, font bold, and text center like this. For label, class name text gray 700, font bold, text size MD, and flex 1. For input, border 1, border color will be gray 400, its outline will be blue 600, rounded width full so that it will take up the full space, padding 2 on all sides, and font normal like this. And as you can see, this carrot, its color is black. We can change it to blue, but instead of giving carrot class to email and password on both fields, we can simply give it on form so that it will apply to all fields. We will say carrot blue 600. Let's click and see. Now as you can see, its color is blue. Let's give the same for register page. We forgot to do it. So in form, inside class name caret blue 600. Now let's style our password label text gray 700, font bold, text MD and flex 1. For input, border 1, border color will be gray 400, outline blue 600, rounded, width full, padding 2 and font normal like this. Now let's style this pen and button. Class name flex, items center, justify between to space them out, and for sign in, since our text is not bigger, we can simply say max sm flex call reverse, so that this link and button will be vertical only on extra small screens, and it will be reversed because we give here reverse, so that our sign in button will be on top and this text will be on bottom. And let's give gap to 3. For this span we will say text LG, we need here space, and for this link underline and text blue 700. We forgot to add text create an account. Okay, so if the user is not registered, it will go to this link and register themselves. For this div, let's first style its button. Class name bgblue 600. When we hover, bgblue 500. So when we hover on this button, its color will be lighter, so that user will know that it's clicking on this. Text color will be white, padding on y-axis 2 and padding on x-axis 3 like this, and font semi-bold. For the text, let's say text XL, and when we hover on it, its opacity will be 95. Let's see like this. Maybe we can just remove this hover. Now let's just give it and remove its opacity. Maybe we don't need it. Let's remove this hover on background like this, and for this div, border blue 400 and padding 1. So the padding between this border and this button like this. Now let's register our fields. For that, before return statement, const destructure register from use form and import use form from React hook form like this. Let's register our fields. So after this class name attribute, let's spread out all the properties of register, call it, and inside we will pass the name of the field that we want to register and required message. Email is required. Let's do the same for password. After this class name, register password and required Password is required. And let's pass other validation like we did for register page for the password field. So in here let's say min length value 6, and if the value is less than 6 characters we will display message password must be at least 6 characters. Same for max length. Value will be 9, and if the characters are greater than 9 we will display message called password can't be more than 9 characters. Now for these fields let's also display error messages below their corresponding fields. For that, now based on the state of these fields we can show individual errors. Let's destructure form state from use form and destructure errors from form state. Now we can use these errors. So after this email input we will say if there are errors in email field only then we will display this span error. Errors.email.message like this. Let's give a class name text red 500. If there are any errors for email field we will display the error message. Let's do the same for password field. After this input curly braces errors dot password and span class name text red 500 and errors.password.message like this. Now for submitting the form we can destructure another method from React Hook form called handle submit. So before return statement we will create a function called onSubmit equal handle submit, pass in the data so that it will check if there are any errors and log that data to console. And on form tag after this class name attribute we will say onSubmit equal onSubmit function that we created like this. Now let's check if it's working. Let's try to submit without filling it. Email password is required. Let's fill it. Let's enter incorrect email and submit. Please include an @ in the email address. alexa@gmail.com is missing an @. Let's give it. Now our password is required. Password must be at least 6 characters and can't be more than 9 characters. Let's open console and submit. Our form data is here, email and password. Now let's check our form's responsiveness. On smallest device, okay, it's looking nice. Let's check on iPad. Okay, it's nice. And on largest device, okay, as you can see it's completely responsive. Let's check for register also. As you can see it's completely responsive. So that's all for today's video. We have created register and sign in form using React Hook form which is also completely responsive. If you like this video press the like button, comment, share and subscribe to UI Universe and see you in the next video. Until then take care, bye bye.